Hi. All right, so thanks for coming. We're going to set up a few ground rules. How many were here at the panels yesterday for Mindy and Steve? How many got to ask questions? Let's be courteous to those who did not get to ask questions and let them go first. Keep your questions short and quick, and we can do the lines. Let's go ahead and, if you want to start one, there's a microphone right here. Let them one down. And first of all, so what's going on right now? A little bit about yourself, how you got into it, how you two became a couple, and
I am a voice actor and performer from Los Angeles, and I set out to get into animation somehow in the early part of my career. Even as a child, I was very influenced by Hanna-Barbera and Looney Tunes and Warner Brothers and Disney, and I just felt like I had a place somewhere in animation with all the crazy people living inside my head, and somehow I could put that into a work form and use it as expression as an actor to play roles that I'd never get to play on camera or on stage. And I had a wonderful opportunity to come audit an audition that was taking place at a studio in Hollywood called Intersound, and they had a no-show at one point. So the producers turned around and asked if I'd like to audition. They knew I was an actor. And I kind of had one of those, the clouds parted and the golden light appeared, and I went running into the studio, and I gave it a shot, and I heard a playback, and I sucked. And I was kind of afraid of what was going on, but I was determined to keep trying, and just thought, okay, that was a really good learning experience, but I've got to get back in the studio again. And about 3 months later, quite a long time later, I got a call saying, Miss Lee, you've been cast as Vanessa Leeds in Robotech. That was my first So in an effort to survive and to be completely immersed in my field, my chosen art, I've branched off into adapting scripts and casting and directing and working with the likes of Mr. Bloom.
I can belch and fart at will. I had no idea I was even going to be going into this field. I was a sort of a musician. I wasn't very good at it. I was a musician for years, playing in an R&B band in Hollywood and struggling. I was the only guy that had a day job, so that's why they kept me in a band. So I paid for all the gigs and I could drive the drums around and stuff. And then I was working in a mailroom at a low-budget film company for money, and I had the deepest voice in the mailroom, and I could do creature sounds. And everybody else in the room was an actor, and we would do stupid sounds at each other and greet each other in the parking lot and pull up our pants and have conversations. So they thought that I might be right to try out for this animation stuff that was going on, and they brought me in for a show called MacGyver. And we ended up auditioning for this thing, and I booked it on the spot because my is a bit better than the other guys in the room. And eventually I had to speak English on the show too. And I just basically stole from everybody that I worked with until I learned how to act, and that took about 20 years. And I'm just, watching your reel, it was amazing that I'm in like every show. We have grown up together. It really wasn't planned. We've grown up together in this business, and they've paired us, and I think it's for a very good reason. I think our voices just complement each other, and even though we're not working in the same room, there's a chemistry, I think, between the characters that we're doing. So I'm so honored to be here with her. It's so much fun. Yeah, we never get to see each other in LA. We're working in different circles a lot of times. She does a lot of directing, and I'm working on the other side of town. We're probably next to each other in the studio and never see each other, so we have to travel halfway across the country to do that. So.
Until we did Vegas, you guys were in the same room.
Vegas, we were in the same room, yeah. Key was hot. So much hotter than the green-skinned chicks. And for YouTube and for all of you guys, John Bailey Compton, the newest rising star in the voiceover industry. He is phenomenal. Let's rock your
in Memphis, and I used to I worked warehouse delivery forklifts, and I had the uncanny ability to imitate every boss I ever had. So I would get on the radio and send people to the opposite of the warehouse and then cancel the order. I did a lot of impressions and a lot of stuff, and just to impress my in-laws so I could get married. So they liked me. And one day my wife made me a MySpace page and like social networking, but that would never last. And they based the ads on your interests, and the local studio here in Memphis, I didn't know we had anything like that, but no production companies. And it popped up as an ad, they said looking for talent. And my wife said, you should totally do that. I was like, nah, that's stupid. She's like, worst thing they can do is say no. Huh. And I went down, I did The Night Before Christmas with about 30 different voices, and I started off with my movie trailer voice. "'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house." And I looked in the window, glanced up, and the guy was like, I said, "Can you come back and record a demo?" "Sure, brother." And they signed me in January. They sent me my first audition by February 1st, and by February 11th, I'd already quit my first job. And within 2 years, part-time, my company went bankrupt. The economy crashed, and I had nothing else to do. And I said, "Look, we've got 1 month severance pay. What are we going to do?" She said, "Let's try to live the voiceover thing full-time." And my manager at the time saw me on YouTube doing movie trailer stuff and sent me some scripts, and I said, "Holy crap, this is Extraordinary Measures. That's Harrison Ford's in this movie. This is a real deal." Next thing I know, he signed me up, and then the guy from 2K Games saw me doing Peter Cullen on the internet. It's like, "I want you in my game." So the next thing I know, I'm, "Hello, Commander." And I was just for being a Transformers fan when I was a kid. And biggest honor in my life was getting to work on Star Wars. I did the voice of Toy. I've had to do everything on my bucket list. I'm the voice of Toys, thanks to D. Bradley Baker establishing the character for me. I got to do the voice of in a Star Wars project, which I was happy with all the commercials for that. I've got to do an audiobook. I've got to do a documentary. I've got to do ADR. These movie trailers, I go in and match for Chris Hemsworth, and you don't even realize it's me, but I'm in the trailer. Up there doing Chris Hemsworth, like Red Dawn. You don't realize it's me. Captain Darkness, I did Bruce Greenwood, didn't even know I was capable. And get into games and do movie trailers every day. Man, Community, I didn't even watch Community before I did the trailers for it. I was like, this show's awesome. Yeah. And getting to know these guys, being in the same industry and getting to meet all these people going out to LA. And I did all that from here, just from YouTube and from social networking like Facebook. So I can do it anyway. So yeah, we have any questions on any of my questions? There's a question. Morning.
When you got work in the party and you had to sing in that one episode, how hard was that to do that song in live?
To do which? I
The
didn't hear
song in
Oh, the song. Oh, it was great. Sometimes there's a budget to redo music. Often we don't get to redo the vocals of the songs, and they leave the Japanese in, as you know. But Bondi has been a huge supporter of mine throughout my career, and they had used me to translate lyrics in the past and to rework songs for a number of shows, theme songs and different characters. I'd be the singing voice for other characters sometimes. And so they knew I was a singer, and so they said, "We're going to budget this. Let's go for it." And so we got to do God Knows and Lost My Music. And I rewrote those lyrics start to finish, and the only hard part really was that. Taking poetry, Japanese poetry, and translating that into English is not a literal translation at all. It changes the meter and the rhyme and all of that. The phrasing still has to match sync. So I spent a lot of time working with the character to picture to make sure that all the lyrics would work with her lip flaps, unlike what you saw in our little bad ADR, bad lip flaps in our little flips there. The audio was out of sync with the picture. But they approved my lyrics without changing anything, and I was really honored with that and by that. And so, yeah, so we'd like to see more budgets approved so we can do more of the music. So it was just an honor.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I grew up with both of you since I was like 5 years old. And my sister couldn't come down to the convention due to minor reasons. And I was wanting to know if maybe you could, in Spike and Faye's voice, have an argument or something for her because she loved it whenever they argued.
Wasn't that every episode? Are you recording? Can I record this now?
Yeah, I have some.
Oh, somebody's recording.
Oh, there we are, okay. All right.
What's her name?
Kayla.
Kayla. I don't know.
Well, Kayla's supposed to be here. I just want you to know, Spike, that she meant to be here. She's not here because she just couldn't put it.
If I had a nickel for every time a woman said that to me. How many times have you said that you were going to be somewhere and you didn't show up? And you took all my money.
That's why I had no nickels.
Good thing Ryan chimes in. It's a good thing we're on a oolong-based economy. How was that? Good? All right.
Make sure you get close to the mic so they can hear you.
First of all, I'm not really. I think I speak for everyone when I say we've all kind of been raised by you guys, so it feels really great to see you in person, especially Tom, who you know me. I can't. What's it like to see the influence you've had on those people in Wisconsin?
What's it like to hear the influence?
Yeah.
That's what fuels me. Recently, I've said this at conventions that I've kind of had some epiphanies lately, and hearing your stories has inspired me to the point where I feel at this point in my life I have to write a book about your stories, about the impact, what it means to you guys, what the stuff that we do means to you guys. For many years, I wasn't sure if I was doing anything about it. I originally wanted to be a doctor, and I wanted to serve people and help people and heal people. And oddly enough, doing stupid cartoon voices and video game stuff, we're healing people. We're actually, people have written to me and called me, emailed me, telling me that they were suicidal at some point, and something they were watching or playing brought them back from that brink and made them feel okay about themselves and want to go on. And when I hear stories like that, it touches me in such a deep, profound place that it changed me on a cellular level to the point where I put that into every performance that I do, whether I'm doing an evil character or not. In my mind, before I do that, I'll kind of center myself and do a prayer of healing so that will touch something at some point. And that's why I love going to conventions to meet you guys and hear your stories, because you guys are the reason that I do this and the reason we all have jobs. So I'm very, very grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And there are guests that, up here, we love the fans. These guys are genuine. I mean, behind the scenes, I've heard stories of people who work with them. I've actually worked with some of the guys at Activision and 2K games. Like, Steve's the nicest guy. And hanging out with Wendy last night, they're genuinely nice people. They genuinely care and actually do appreciate. They haven't let it go to the Guinness Book of World Record holder. And he hasn't let it go to his head. He comes in and he does his job. He brings it. One of the guy producers I worked with just the other day, we worked on something I'm not allowed to talk about. And he said, you got to work with Steve on Marvel too. And he said he came in with extra lozenges, pro lozenges, and he left it there for the next voice actor. That's just the kind of person he is. So his heart's bigger than his own body.
He bought a case for one of the studios.
I took that case off.
Artists tend to be generous people and generally pretty selfless. Tied up with ego at times and needy and insecure and all of that, but genuinely caring and giving, and there is an element of being of service as a performer. And I think that the people that succeed that's well integrated into who they are, the character. They're Western, spiritually. And so you find that performers and the actors that we work with are some of the most amazing people. We're really honored to work with exceptional talent, people that often go unrecognized, and certainly my experience as a director is to trust the actors that I work with because I have so much respect for them as who they are and what they can do artistically.
Cowboy Bebop is considered like a quintessential anime. So when it started airing and really blew up, it got ridiculously popular. How did you guys deal with all that exposure so suddenly that, oh my God, we're in the show and everybody it's considered like a legendary, like you have to watch this. You watch anime, you have to watch Cowboy Bebop. How did you guys deal with
of something that we had a hunch was going to be something great, but even better, even bigger, a better reception with the public than we imagined, I think. I don't know if any of us really knew how big it was going to be, but being behind the scenes, I can still go to the market and say, oh, you're wearing a Cowboy Bebop shirt. Do you like the show? Me too. And they'll never know it's great. So being behind the scenes is still kind of, it feels like I'm an animation spy. I get to, have an alter identity. It's very, I don't know,
It's kind of the best of both worlds, really. And I didn't know either until I started going to conventions. I had no idea how much love the show generated out there. I don't watch my own stuff. I didn't even watch Bebop until a couple of years ago. I'd seen a few episodes.
Shame on you.
I know. I mean, so many of the shows that we've done are still shoot wrapped in my studio. I never watched them. I just haven't taken the time to do that. So I was flabbergasted going to the first, I don't even know which convention it was, but when people just erupted in the audience when we were talking about Bebop, I'm like, wow, people are really checking this thing out. And I did have some sense of it from the Toonami guys when I was working on Toonami, because we did broadcast earlier on too. And they were always saying the show just keeps on pulling in the big numbers, and it's become kind of a classic. And the other thing that was weird about that show was that much later on, probably 6 or 7 years after the show had aired, I was having a conversation with the director and saying, well, I'm kind of feeling like I'm getting the hang of this acting thing. And she goes, well, you've been an actor all this time. I said, well, no, I've just been kind of doing it. And it didn't even dawn on me that I was actually an actor, because I still had my day job. I still work my day job, and I thought, well, these guys are the real actors. They're trained. And what I didn't realize was that I had been training all those years through that process. And everything was a surprise. And it's still a surprise to me. I mean, now we're back on the air with Toonami, and at 4 o'clock in the morning, Cowboy Bebop is still pulling numbers of over 800,000 viewers. And that's thanks to you guys, and I'm just so honored to be part of something like that,
We are extremely honored to have you here. Like everybody, this is amazing. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
The style of Cowboy Bebop is stunning. It was a great story. It was a great voice acting. It was just a great show. I was kidding about that one. I watched every episode. Hi, how are you?
I'm a little shy.
So we are too.
It's really great to see you guys. I'm a huge fan of both of you. Love your work. Cowboy Bebop, They Go, stuff like that. Especially being a pretty big fan of like noir and stuff like that. I actually do have a question for you, Steve. You played Wolverine quite a few times, like Superhero Squad, which of course is sort of for a younger-ish audience. I watched it.
A little different version of Wolverine.
Yeah. The Hulk versus Wolverine. I was actually curious, especially from an acting standpoint, what was it like playing several different incarnations of that character?
Pretty nice, bub. Yeah. Well, I grew up in a comic book store. My grandfather owned a bookstore in Hollywood, and my first job at 13 years old, 12 years old, and during the summers was sorting comic books. And I'm old, so Wolverine wasn't around at that point, but even at that age, when I would read through comics, I would have these voices come up in my head. I think as a lot of you do. I just couldn't get them out. I wasn't able to do that. So later on, when I got to audition for Wolverine, I was of course aware of the X-Men. It had become this incredible legacy. And when I had the opportunity to read for him, it was just that voice that popped in my head from the 13-year-old that was rolling around in there. But fortunately, I'd grown up enough where the voice could actually come out instead of a squeaky little 13-year-old voice. And so I just did the very first thing that came to my brain. It was a very organic thing, and that's kind of how I work normally. And fortunately, they agreed that it was the voice in their head too. And I still have to audition. We were talking about this earlier. I still have to audition almost every time Wolverine comes up in any project. It's a different group of producers. So I have to keep those chops up. I have to make sure that it's just as solid as it was the first time. It keeps me humble.
Oh, that's great. It's really great to see you guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks for the autograph.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi. First, I'd love to say that what I really
say, I think it was really happy just to see, like, just their was just actually being happy being around each other, working together. So I was wondering, what other actors do you feel like working with, or any funny stories you could say?
All of them.
All of them.
Any emergency like you didn't watch?
But yeah, amazing people. Michelle Ruff, Kirk Thornton, Barbara Goodson, Kari Waldron.
There's so many.
There's so many.
She might mention Frank Welker and Kate
Oh.
Yeah, Michael Sorge, Darren Norris, Nolan North, Dean Baker.
Stephanie Shea.
Yeah, oh my God. You can go on forever.
Very strong.
It's funny.
Thomas way up there.
Yeah.
Frank's pretty funny.
Yeah, Frank, well, he's hilarious. And so is Peter Cullen. Tom Kenny, though, I have to tell you that Tom Kenny, most of you guys know Tom Kenny from SpongeBob. He was in the Superhero Squad, and he played Captain America and Iron Man and MODOK. And to hear that guy riff, he would go off for sometimes 20 minutes with just in a MODOK voice, but he'd start pulling all these historical references and musical references, and he's a genius. The guy's just a genius. And that's the great thing about going into these sessions. You start seeing all these hidden talents and memories that these actors have accumulated over their careers. And you cannot believe what you hear in those rooms sometimes. It's just
He was just like Chris Lott. He was a comedian on Mr. Show on HBO, and then he ends up in Starscream. So
Charlie Adler. I mean, there's so many guys that are just
Pretty smart.
Yeah, working with Grace is insane.
David Kaye, who worked with him.
Yeah.
Scott McNeil's cool.
That would take another 4 hours to go through this.
I was going to stand next to Terrence Strong.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
I noticed sometimes you both and a lot of other actors actually do your work under aliases. And I was just wondering, what's sort of the reason behind that?
It's 3 or less.
Yeah. It really comes down to our union, the Active Screen Actors Guild. We have a kind of a prickly circumstance that's going on, and that is contracts that fall under a union contract and those that do not. And especially with new media coming in the last probably 5 to 8 years, it's been even more difficult to define as far as when a project's going to be union or not. And I can certainly speak as on the production side, producer, director side. We always try to get a union contract, but it can be very difficult. And Screen Actors Guild is an institution that is run by people that are not members. They're not legally allowed to be members of their administration. So they don't have a vested interest in securing a union contract. So often our producers are international from mostly Japan, but many other countries. And they sometimes can't wait to deal with all the hoops that a production has to go through to become signatory. So often we go non-union, and in that case, we're in a difficult position as actors, so many people have to work under aliases, and it's really just a legal category that we want to be sure that we're in a position to protect ourselves. So that's really what it comes down to. It's not to be cryptic, and it's not because, we like coming up with silly names like, what was Papa Brooks? It was just ridiculous. It was like John Smallberry's.
I wrote a script under my dog's name once.
It's one of those situations where it's like, you didn't hear anything. Thanks.
One last thing.
Very
David
good.
Lucas, yes or no?
What was that?
Are you David Lucas?
I cannot confirm or deny.
There you go. That statement. Between that non-disclosure agreement,
Maybe in my heart a little bit, sure. Hi.
Make a question. Did they script the third season for that show?
Say that
Did they
again?
script the 3rd season for Vegas?
Oh, I don't know if they had script.
They had story elements. I don't know if it was fully scripted.
I don't think because it didn't get greenlit, I don't think they fully scripted.
Yeah,
But I think they had outlines for its characters.
I think so.
Yeah.
They were done. And they were trying like crazy to get it back in the air. I think they're still trying, but there's some legal issues, who owns the rights, and whatever. So
Yeah, I know the creators want to move forward, but
yeah, I'll do it.
We'll do anything for money.
That's right.
We have 6 minutes, guys, so very quickly we'll try to get many of you and
Hi.
Hi. I'm a bit nervous. This is directed towards you, Mr. Bloom. When they rough drafted Final Fantasy VII, or they brought it to America, and they asked you to play the part of Vincent Valentine. Were you a bit nervous taking over the voice of such a big character, I guess, towards, like, getting nervous towards what he should sound like in America, seeing as Final Fantasy VII, of course, was not voiced?
Ignorance is bliss. I wasn't nervous at all. I just thought it was pretty, and I was glad to get to work on it. I auditioned for that. They didn't ask me necessarily. I auditioned on everybody else. So I was just glad to get the role, and I was really excited. It was such a cool thing.
Thank you very much for answering my question.
it's more nerve-wracking to sit in front of 300 people talking about voice acting after Is that it? We got 4 minutes.
No, come on. You gotta take Faye. Come on.
She's stressed. She's stressed at everything.
Yeah, we got Faye.
One more. Okay.
Hey, we got
He's the bad guy.
We got microphone. Hi, Faye.
Hi. It's really nice to meet both of you.
Nice to see you again. In all your forms.
Why? I'm looking good.
Yes, you are.
This is a question for both of you. When Cowboy Bebop came out in English, a lot of us were still like in middle school, high school when it was being released, and I remember staying up late, just turning all my lights off and turning the volume down low, waiting for Cowboy Bebop to come on. And I remember thinking, I'm listening to jazz late at night, I'm so cool. And what is it like for you to see us, like, all grown up? I know you guys have done cons since the show came out, but we are still loyally following you because your show makes such an impact on our lives. It brings back memories for us. How does that feel?
I know, we're crying up here.
I feel amazing. I can't believe that we're attached to such a legacy, and it's become such a legacy. I'm just hugely honored, and it's just kind of now, it's my handle. I know that, at some point when I have gone and passed, they'll say voice of Faye, that there'll be something that I've left a mark on the planet that mattered to people, and that moves me as an artist. That's exactly what my goal is as an artist. So it means everything to us, truly.
Yeah, I wish I could rock the looks that you guys rock. You said something that was interesting that didn't even occur to me, is that listening to that soundtrack made me feel cool too. Is that true for everybody here? Besides the visuals and storytelling and everything else, the soundtrack was just phenomenal at that. And I remember listening to the jazz and the blues, and I was thinking, yeah, man, I'm gonna go listen to this. Just that sort of struck something. I just met Raj Ramaya, who sang two of the main songs in the Bebop movie. And a lot of people don't really know his name, but my God, I saw him on stage. He was performing at one of the cons I was attending. And just seeing him up there and playing that brought back a lot of memories for me. So we're as affected by it as much as you guys are. And we're so grateful that you guys are too. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you for dressing up. And thanks for coming out to see us. And I think we gotta go.
Yeah, we're going to have 1 minute. Can you please show the tattoo?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. This is how much it meant to me. This is Bang. This is the voice file of Spike's last word. Yeah! So that's exactly what it looks like. That's what Bang looks like. So anyway, I'm wearing it with as much loyalty and fervor as you guys do. So I'm with you. We're one of you. We're two of you. We're three of you.